Oh, well, I've just come running out the car park to get here on time. We're doing a Titleist Driver fitting today. We're down here at St Mellion. James is umming and ahhing, aren't you? What have you got here?
I got the TSI 3.
But you weren't always a Titleist player, were you? You've always been TaylorMade.
TaylorMade since 2009. I had TaylorMade Driver, and then
Why did you change to this?
I just came for a fitting with Ben. I've known Ben for years and thought, well, let's just see if it outperforms my TaylorMade, and I was really shocked at how good it was.
Yeah.
Loved it, and then it's probably been the best driver I've ever had.
Performance that you've had with this, just with us playing together over the last couple of months, I mean, it is phenomenal how well you've been hitting this driver. Why look elsewhere? What is it? What's ticking in that brain of yours?
It's just to see if the TSR can perform any better, whether I can get a little bit extra ball speed without losing the sort of dispersion. Yeah, just to see if something performs better. I'm not overly fussy about shafts, just to see whether a different head from Titleist, the upgraded version, and also to get rid of the scratch on the top would be quite nice.
I think it's that. I think it's the little, how have you done that? What actually happened?
Literally coming out of lockdown, I had it delivered, and the alignment stick that I've been practicing with the whole of lockdown was on the top, and went through the head cover and scratched it. I was crying that day.
Day one out the box.
Yeah,
right, well, let's go and catch up with Ben inside the studio here at St Mellion, and let's see how your fitting goes for the TSR. See if you can get any more out of it.
If I was to say, Trackman's saying that spun at 2700.
Yeah.
If you use launch monitor quite a lot, like, would you say that look about right, just on the ball setting?
Yeah, I'd say maybe a little bit less, but yeah, fairly low spinning, I would say, in terms of the head. I do like this head.
So are you seeing players kind of go from TSI into TSR? Is it a jump, or are you going, seeing more TS and generations before that?
Well, again, as part of the kind of first part of the interview, of just saying to James at the start of the session there, like, how's the driver been? And when the player says, obviously James is playing, like I said, some of the best golf of his career at the moment, but the driver has clearly been good. Very good. So, first thing is, I mean, you've played quite a bit of golf with James anyway. First things first, we don't want to disturb that performance too much if he's really enjoying it. So, sound, look, profile, all those sorts of things is likely to go straight into a TSR in the same configuration to begin with, and see what happens to the numbers. But I fitted this a couple of years ago, and it looks like it has been a really good club for James. So any gain from that is going to be worth having, even if it's a couple of mile an hour and a few yards. But that's what we're probably likely to see. Maybe 1-2, even if it's 1 or 2 mile an hour for the likes of a player like James, it's worth having, isn't it? So
yeah, for sure.
That is still a shaft that we offer. Yep. So because this is your club as well, it's always a good place to start. Let's just put a new head on it. And have you tinkered with this at all since I fitted it?
No, I'm not. If I like something and hit it well, it's basically pilot error rather than, I don't like adjusting clubs at all, to be honest. If I feel like I'm swinging well on the day and hitting it good for fitting, I'll never change it.
Jimbo, so we've got now TSR3, so gone from TSI3. Visuals?
Visuals, I can't see much difference at all. I wouldn't, apart from the giant scratch on the top of my head, I wouldn't notice the difference.
You kind of got used to.
Yeah. On the
first but shape of it, exactly the same?
Yeah, it looks very similar.
Yeah. What about sound, James?
Nothing jumping out at me.
No.
I'm sort of somebody who'll know pretty much straight away whether something feels different, but there's no alarm bells ringing.
That last one came out quickly. And again, like, there's a few different ways we can do this, but the way I would, first things first, like, if we look at this is just a quick thing from Trackman. Yes, I know that we're using algorithm on the golf ball, but that was your average of those shots. So for me, if I can give you a bit more speed and a little bit less spin, you'll achieve those longer shots a little bit more often. Between those, your optimals haven't changed, but you've generated a little bit more ball speed. And 1 yard more carry and 2 yards total, like, without doing anything. A bit like we said at the start of the session there, that's that's probably not a million miles away from what we can maybe expect, but if we can maybe generate a little bit more ball speed, as you can see it's available from what Trackman's saying here,
yep,
and improve dispersion, then we'll be on to the winner, won't we? Would you have a preferred miss, or?
Yeah, generally right.
Like, do you keep any stats on this kind of stuff?
Not really. Everything I kind of like to see left to right, and then I'll tee it up and hit it a lot differently on a par 5 or a slightly wider par 4, but generally it's quite a sort of flat cut. So I tend to launch it a lot higher on sort of par 5s, and I tend to sort of vary my ball flight quite a lot with driver. I don't have sort of one swing for it, kind of very tee high.
Yeah, ultimately no tee shot's the same, is it?
No.
So how is the comparison, just with the few swings that we've had now, TSI into TSR? Small?
At the moment, it's kind of what I would see with most well-fitted golfers, is we've got a just over a mile an hour gain in ball speed. Ultimately, because it's a foreign golf club, although it's a very similar configuration, ultimately it's not James's club, so it's going to feel a little different, it's going to feel alien to begin with. So we'll make a few more adjustments in a minute, but at face value, tiny bit more ball speed. I think what we said on there, 1 yard additional carry and a couple of yards extra total, but we haven't completely finished dialing it in just yet.
So where did he start? What was his configuration to start with? What was the settings and everything, and are you going to change that to try and get some bit more out of it?
So at the moment, James' TSI was a 9 degrees set on B1, which is one click into a flat position, and T2, so that's the centre of gravity, where it's just slightly maybe a dimple into the toe end of the club face as such. So trying to draw that centre of gravity away from, away into the place where he frequently would strike it. Ultimately.
So you've just adjusted something there. What have you tried to do there?
So I changed the shift at hosel back to A1. It's only something negligible, but just to try and improve start line. For James said that he likes to see it kind of peel a little bit from left to right. Where if you can start it in that part of the, down that part of the fairway, then it's a good start. It's a good start, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean, does that feel any different, James?
Last 3 felt really nice.
Did they?
Okay, cool.
Felt different from a strike point of view?
Yeah, just much better.
But do you have a miss on the golf course that you
generally
want to
right?
improve in?
Yeah,
generally right. Okay. So even that then, by changing the hosel to go a little bit more upright, that's probably going to improve the right miss, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that'd be interesting.
Good hit, James.
Feels hotter off the fence.
The height is a problem, but again, this is where being a decent player, this is kind of up to you to a point where if you watch any of the golf on the TV, look at Sawgrass a couple of weeks ago, you see quite high ball flights and steep landing angles, don't you? Where the fairways are going to be a bit wider if you're not getting loads of roll. So, if you were to go and play the Open, maybe you would want to see a slightly flatter landing angle. At the moment, that you said you buttoned that one, felt like it came off a bit quicker, looked like a great ball flight, but landing angle 41 degrees, spin at 3100, there's definitely more yards in there if we can take a few more revs of spin off and bring the flight down. So
what's the angle of attack?
So you've hit up at that by 4 degrees.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your kind of norm, James? What are you looking?
Yeah, I would say somewhere in between 2 and 4.
That feel like an accurate strike location?
Yeah, a
little bit at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just go again. I reckon we could, if you're hitting up by that much, I reckon we could potentially go down in loft a little bit. Let's find out, shall we?
Yeah.
So we're going for a full change now.
Yeah, the change isn't as radical as it might sound.
Yeah, okay.
I have got the opportunity to loft that down with the shift at hosel. That 9 degree head can go down to 8.25.
Yeah.
But that will affect the face angle a little bit as well. So to keep it nice and neutral, we're going to keep that on a standard setting, but just go down to an 8 degree
8 degree head.
same algorithm we're using for the range ball there. That's your longest hit with the range ball so far. Bodes well. Ball speed is higher than it was earlier. Spins a little bit lower. So remember we quoted that 3,000 revs and 41 degrees. Although it's a different hit and a different delivery, that was 94 feet and just over 35 degrees. So certainly going to get a bit more release.
Just from what I've kind of seen on the golf course, like you do get it out there quite high, which I know you kind of like that. So just by moving it into a slightly lower lofted head, I think he's got wriggle room to go into that window you're talking about.
Yeah.
He's got room to bring it down.
And that's
if he's going to get more ball speed out of it.
That's why I think it's really important, because you guys play a lot of golf together. So I'm only seeing a snippet here.
Yeah.
We are using range balls, albeit we can hit a few Pro Vs.
Yeah.
I'm getting a small snippet in a half an hour, 45-minute fit.
Yeah.
Where, you know, James has really enjoyed that driver, but if you said that even just playing some golf, you feel like he could benefit from a slightly faster flight.
Well, I wouldn't say. All I mean is like I think he has wriggle room there. If he was in a 9 degree and his flight was already down, like to go into an 8 and bring it even lower is just to gain maybe more ball speed out of it. But I think because he launches it quite high and he's got it really peaking out at a great height, having that 1 degree less loft, I don't think is going to really hurt him on the golf course. That's just from what I've seen anyway.
We'll listen to these numbers. So we've got now ball speed is at 163.5 as an average instead of 161.6.
So he's gained 2 mile an hour.
Gain 2 mile an hour.
Yeah.
And wait for that one to just finish. So 99 feet, 38 degrees. That's tour average, really. So rather than missing out on a few yards of run, that's still not going to be really chasey, but you're just going to get a few more yards out of it.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Which is at this level, you're not going to change the world here, are you?
No,
it's going to be subtle gains.
If you notice again, I haven't even think about changing that shaft yet.
No.
Like James has really enjoyed it over the last couple of seasons. Not really any real reason to go away from that.
No.
I always think our kind of USP is always going to be in the head anyway. Like as much as shafts can influence. I mean, you've had quite a few fits over the years. Shafts can influence your delivery and the spin and launch windows a little bit, but we're going to do more with the club head itself. So I think that so far that's already trending in a quite a good direction.
From a window point of view, James, what are you seeing? Are you seeing anything out there that just maybe looks like the flight's down, or you ever struggle to get that in the air more?
But it's not looking. No, I'm just sort of making the same swing. I quite like to sort of change my angle anyway.
Yeah.
So we were out in Turkey recently, and my sort of setup was a little bit different then, I would say. So I would sort of set up to it a little bit tilted back to get up on it. So then that ball flight's going to come out a little bit higher anyway.
Yeah, launching it higher.
Like that.
Yeah.
Just to throw in some numbers there again. Yes. Well, to be fair, you did warm up. It's not like you're coming into this session cold, but with your own driver, your average ball speed was just shy of 161, so 160.7.
Yeah.
We're now up at 163.2. If we look at the kind of other parameters, 102 feet coming down at just sort of 40 degrees with 2,800 revs of spin. To be fair, that hasn't changed dramatically. We just got a little bit more speed, tiny bit less spin. Obviously there might be a couple of outliers in there, but as an average that's kind of what it's looking like.
So just to say, by bringing it down 1 degree, you're able to increase ball speed because there's less deflection to a point. The window has dropped down in flight a couple of yards, a couple of feet.
Yeah, it's not a huge amount. I think naked eye, definitely looks like that. You can kind of see it.
Yeah.
I mean, if we delve into this, there might be, if you look here, 120 feet. Let's just take that one out for a moment.
Yeah.
And I think that if you look there, 98 feet
Yeah,
and 38, just over 38 degree landing angle.
So you've dropped it by 3 feet.
Yeah, that's not
that. But to the naked eye, you can see that. You might not see it on a monitor there with 3 feet, but that to the eye, you can see the launch and everything just change fractionally.
Let's just go back to hitting a couple of Pro Vs down there. This is the ball that James uses.
Yeah.
Really important. and we'll often do this in fittings where ultimately I'm not in full control of all the variables, because albeit those are brand new range balls out of the packet, they're range balls. We're using an algorithm on TrackMan to try and normalise it. But if we just put this back into Pro V1X, for the guys on camera, this is a slightly uphill range, isn't it? Tiny bit. They go again, and that last one, just to the eye, looked really good. So that carried, just to show ball speed differences, 169, carried 281, total 299. So good.
Really good. Subtle change.
Subtle change.
Going give you a different weight.
Going to give you a bigger hammer, but directionally, those last two were spot on, weren't they? Like, hardly any curve, right over target.
Yeah.
That was good.
That's your best so far?
Yeah. But that is also it's normalised, but that is Pro V1 as well. So that's not range ball.
So it's 170 mile/h ball speed.
Yeah.
With a 2.6 spin. That's kind of all in blue.
That's really good.
Just by changing the weight in the back of the head?
Yeah, so it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to make the club feel a little different, but if there's more mass, there's an opportunity for a little bit more ball speed.
Do you feel the difference in it?
Not massively.
No.
I don't think you're going to really. I'm liking the ball flight. Last four have been much better in terms of ball flight. I feel like I'm maybe swinging a little bit better than I was earlier in the session, but certainly no qualms on.
I think that's the thing though, because we're dealing with a player that's got lots of speed, that weight element, you're probably not going to notice it, which is why, if we can give you a bit more mass behind the golf ball, potentially producing a bit more speed, then of course we're going to try and do that. So if we were fitting someone with more moderate speed, people almost notice it behind the golf ball waggling it. So and it's only 4 grams, but it might just be enough difference there to produce.
I can probably feel it when I'm holding it like that. Definitely. If I'm holding it there, I can.
Like dead weight as such.
Feel it, because I could feel it in my irons recently that I had built, but certainly not in the swing.
Okay.
What's that shaft? And like from his point of view, do you even look at even changing a shaft from this point? And what would it actually even improve? Because you've hit it in the blue.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those, isn't it? Like we've kind of got the ball to where we've got improvements to what the golf ball is doing, providing it still feels good. It's one of those, like we could try different shafts, but
I'm not overly fussy with shafts. Like I've had that shaft in now, and I had my previous shaft in.
Yeah.
I'm not somebody changing for the sake of changing. The reason for coming for this fitting is to see if the TSR is better than the TSI 3. Although that's performing really well, if I can get something that performs slightly better and doesn't change dispersion, then happy. But I'm certainly happy with the shaft. I wouldn't be rushing to try other ones.
From past experience of me going into a different shaft, trying a different shaft, going into the TSR, I wish I hadn't. I've gone running back to my old shaft.
Have you?
Yeah, I have. Even though it was great in the fitting and it felt good in the fitting and the flight was lovely, as soon as I got on the golf course, I just wanted the confidence of my old shaft back.
If James had said to me at the start of the session, I'm here because I'm going through a real dodgy spell and there's just something about this driver that I'm not enjoying, then that's when it's definitely a time to change the feel of the club altogether. Obviously shaft is a big component in what the club feels like. It's it's a bit they're holding on to, but for me, at the start of the session you said I'm playing some of the best golf that I've ever played. Driver's been awesome for the last 2 years. One thing we don't want to do is change that too much. I mean, you're a player that you probably hit a lot of golf balls, you play a lot of golf, you swing that club so frequently, and you're constantly kind of calibrating where that awareness of where the club head is, of loft and face angle, and to, especially at this part, we're emerging into the early parts of the season. We want it to be familiar.
Absolutely.
from
We want
the
it coming out of the
get-go.
blocks, don't
Yeah,
we?
exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any real reason to, unless it's something that you want to try.
No, not
to
really.
be honest.
No, like I say, I like this shaft, and I have done for 2 years. Like I say, if anything's coming out on the system there that's getting me a little bit more ball speed, and we can, like I say, a bit heavier, then great. But I'm not too concerned about shaft changes. Definitely.
Cool.
I would stay with the weight maybe previous to
Okay.
this one.
Now you've hit a couple more. That's fine.
Although the dispersion wasn't bad, it just felt like I was, maybe because I'm getting a bit tired in the session, just felt like I was struggling.
Well, again, this is a good reference for anyone who's watching. That was driver swing number 37. In a session, you will start to plateau. We do this thing called 30 and 30, where there's a kind of a loose process to improve someone's driving within 30 shots, and we've kind of done that already. And I think there's a good point to mention that actually after that amount of swings, you might see a bit of a drop off in performance.
For me, just looking at what we've seen here, I would say that okay, that weight wasn't necessarily towards the end of the session giving you what you felt was probably the best, but I think having those options available to you,
Definitely.
so taking that extra weight, definitely looking at that lower lofted head, you've still got a 9-degree head as a backup.
Yeah.
You've still got the weight in the 9-degree head. You've still got your. What I'm saying from this is you know what that head can do with that weight. It's optimizing, but maybe by the end of the round you might not be feeling it, or by the end of a practice session you might not be feeling it. Having those options at your disposal is worthwhile holding on to, rather
definitely.
than just saying, right, I'll take that without the weight in it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, like I say, just for me, if alarm bells ring, but hitting that TSR head felt really good. Same shaft in it, and like I say, lower in loft.
Yeah.
Got no issues with that. Didn't see any dramatic differences, but the numbers were good. So no, really pleased with that.
Cool, I bet you're exhausted, aren't you? It's a lot of whacking there, isn't it? A lot of whacking.
I tend to do these silly things like just decide to have my first gym session in 2 years yesterday. Woke up this morning, I was like, oh wow, my legs.
Yeah, and then I've got a fitting.
Yeah,
Perfect.
So yeah, it wasn't the most intelligent idea.
What did you think of that?
I really enjoyed it. I love trying. I'm not a massive fiddler with clubs. Like, I've had the same irons for 4 years. I haven't changed shafts in probably 7 years. But it's just really good to sort of get a different feel on things and have Ben there. He's got so much knowledge to.
Quick changes, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing. How
So
quick
literally
you can
chuck a
change
little bit of weight in. He was able to find me 2 or 3 mile-an-hour ball speed, which isn't a massive gain. What I had in my bag was an excellent piece of equipment. But if you can find little gains here and there, something a little lower in ball flight, bit more run, it's going to help you in certain areas. And yeah, I think it's really good. Just good to sort of come and try it. I'm not in the rush for a new driver, but certainly to try something like that and get a bit more out of it definitely helps.
What I liked about that was that by moving into an 8-degree head, and this is what I was trying to get my kind of point across in there, was that if you decided to get yourself the 8-degree head, and remember James is not sponsored by Titleist, so he's going to be buying this equipment he wants to get. If you go for that 8-degree head, it's different to the 9-degree head that you've got in the TSI, and the numbers they're tiny gains from the TSR, so you've always got that driver to go back to if you need to.
Yeah, and the shaft's the same, so there's not going to be a huge amount of difference just changing from one to the next.
No.
I wouldn't be that
Subtle
comfortable.
gains.
Yeah, I wouldn't be that comfortable sort of changing shaft and doing other things.
Having a
'cause
massive
little bit
overhaul.
of trust element. Yeah.
Let us know down below if you've been through a fitting yourself. Have you seen maybe some subtle gains that are worth testing and worth changing for? Obviously a big thank you to James, and good luck for this season heading up for what we've got ahead of us. Should be a good year.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. See you again very soon.